The Shadow Warden, Part 1. The courtyard of the citadel is quiet and serene. The morning light filters through the high stone walls, casting long shadows over the immaculate garden. Master Stone kneels beside a patch of rare obsidian-hued orchids, his calloused hands tending to the delicate petals with the precision of a warrior sharpening his blade. Despite his weathered, scarred hands and the unmistakable aura of deadly power that clings to him like a second skin, his movements are almost reverent, calm, graceful, and unhurried. The garden is his sanctuary, a place where the echoes of war and conquest fade to a distant murmur. Birds with plumage as dark as midnight roost in the ancient twisted branches overhead, singing their somber songs. A few of Master Stone's grandchildren, fierce and wild-eyed, spar in the open space at the garden's edge, their laughter ringing through the air. Warriors and mages alike patrol the citadel, each one a veteran of countless campaigns, disciplined and deadly. A sharp intake of breath breaks the quiet, and Master Stone glances up without truly looking. A young guard, barely enough to grow a beard, stands at the edge of the garden, fidgeting nervously. He bows low, clearly wary of disturbing the master's peace. "Master Stone," the guard says, his voice steady but respectful. "There is a group of travelers at the gate. They ask for an audience with you. They claim their quest is dire, and you are their only hope." Master Stone does not rise immediately, his hand brushing a fallen leaf from the soil. He wipes the dirt from his fingers with a strip of black cloth and rises to his full height, casting a long shadow across the garden path. His eyes, like flint, reflect the firelight from the nearby braziers as he motions for the guard to let them in. Moments later, the gate creaks open, and the travelers are escorted in by a pair of heavily armored knights, each carrying poleaxes engraved with sigils of the citadel. The group is a motley collection, barely more than a handful. The youngest looks no older than 16, a halfling rogue with wide, determined eyes. Beside him, a human cleric with a shattered holy symbol held together by twine. A dwarf fighter whose armor is half rusted, but well maintained. A half-elf bard with an old lute strapped to her back, and a tiefling wizard whose staff crackles weakly with residual energy. They hesitate before stepping closer, clearly overwhelmed by the sheer presence of Master Stone and the might of the citadel. The rogue pushes himself to the front, his knuckles white around the hilt of his short sword. "Master Stone," he says, his voice trembling but filled with resolve. "We've traveled from the south, across the ashen wastes, and through the ghoul wood. Our village, Windmere, is gone, burned to the ground by the Black Host. They slaughtered everyone. We are the only survivors." The cleric steps forward, placing a gentle hand on the rogue's shoulder, her expression solemn. "They march towards the capital, thousands strong. The king is already dead, we were told. We were told that you are the only one who could stop them." The bard chimes in, her voice shaky but sincere. "We've nothing to offer but our service, master. We beg you, please. We cannot let them take the Heart Spire. If they do, the world will fall into darkness." Silence hangs heavy in the air as Master Stone studies them. His gaze is piercing and unyielding as granite. The tiefling wizard, whose horns are chipped and scuffed, dares to speak next.
They said you've done everything, good and evil, that no force can stand against you, that even the demons whisper your name in fear.
Master Stone remains motionless, his expression unreadable. The wind stirs the petals of his orchids, and the shadows stretch long before him. One of his grandchildren, a young half-elf orc warrior with a gleaming greatsword, glances at him, awaiting his command. Finally, Master Stone speaks, his voice low and weathered, like ancient stone grinding against itself. "Why come to me?" he asks, his tone devoid of sympathy, yet not entirely cold.
"There are champions aplenty, men of faith and valor, who love the light. Seek their aid."
The rogue swallows hard, but he does not look away. "We did. They're all dead. Or fled. You're the only one left. The only one strong enough to stand against the Black Host. You've already seen everything. Fought the worst monsters and faced the darkest magic. If you don't help, there's nothing left." Master Stone's eyes narrow slightly. He can see the desperation in them, how they cling to the last flicker of hope. Behind them, the Citadel's guards and his family gather at the periphery, waiting for his decree. He turns his back to the travelers, looking down at his orchids once more. He takes a long, slow breath before speaking, his tone contemplative.
"I have killed kings and usurped tyrants. I have seen empires rise and crumble under my hand. Yet, in all my years, there is nothing more foolish than the desire to save a world that does not deserve it."
The group falters, their shoulders sinking as if crushed by the weight of his words. The rogue's hands shake, and the cleric bows her head in silent despair.
"But,"
Master Stone continues, his voice harder now like steel,
"there is nothing more defiant, nothing more worthy than fighting against the inevitable, even when you know you will lose."
He turns to face them again, his presence like a tidal wave of power washing over them.
"If you are willing to bleed, break, burn, I will teach you how to kill an army. But do not mistake resolve for strength. You will fight, you will suffer, until you have no more left to give. And then you will rise again and fight once more."
The rogue's eyes light up with fierce determination. The cleric nods, wiping away tears. The dwarf cracks his knuckles, his lips curling into a grim smile. The bard looks both terrified and exhilarated, while the wizard grips his staff tighter, faint sparks dancing around his fingertips. Master Stone glances at his half-orc grandson and gives a single, wordless nod. The young warrior grins, eager to see if these desperate souls will survive the trials ahead. Master Stone turns back to his garden, kneeling once more among the shadows and the flowers. He knows that the war will come to him regardless, and his citadel will be tested. Better to prepare the firebrands than to watch them perish for nothing. The orchids sway gently in the wind, and for a moment he allows himself to wonder if, this time, the world might surprise him. The gates of the citadel yawn open with a groaning creak, and Master Stone strides through, his cloak fluttering like a shadow in the breeze. Behind him, the guards salute silently, their eyes hard with respect and sorrow. They know their master has chosen to walk into the world once more, a world that has long since forgotten his wrath. The party gathers just beyond the gate, their faces a mixture of awe and determination. The young rogue, the de facto leader, it seems, gives a hesitant nod as Master Stone approaches, his every step soundless despite the weight of his gear. The dwarf grunts, eyeing the master with open suspicion, but keeping his axe firmly in the hand. The tiefling wizard avoids his gaze, muttering a few arcane syllables under his breath, as if reminding himself that magic still exists. The cleric is too focused on her holy symbol to notice anything but prayer, and the bard watches Master Stone with nervous energy, her lute clutched tightly. The road stretches ahead, a weathered dirt path winding through the darkened forest. Master Stone says nothing, content to walk behind them, his presence suffocating, but oddly reassuring. The rogue hesitates, then clears his throat. Master Stone, he begins, awkwardly. We're heading to the old trade road first. The Black Host was last seen near the shattered bridge. Maybe 3 days' walk from here. We'll have to pass through the deadwood before we get there. Master Stone just gives a single nod, his gaze piercing through the trees as if seeing beyond them. The young leader swallows his unease and signals the others to move forward. They fall into a formation of sorts, the rogue and the dwarf at the front, the cleric and the bard in the middle, and the tiefling lagging just behind. Master Stone follows at a distance, his senses reaching out beyond mortal perception. The path is long and the forest dense, the light filtering through in eerie, jagged patterns. The birds have long gone silent, leaving only occasional rustle of leaves and the distant growl of unseen creatures. The party tries to make conversation, clumsy and forced. The bard glances back at Master Stone, attempting to sound cheerful. So, Master, if I may ask, how long has it been since you left the citadel? Stone's gaze does not shift from the road ahead. Longer than your life, girl. She gives a hesitant laugh, but it's more out of nervousness than humor. The dwarf snorts, muttering under his breath. Figures. Bet the road feels like freedom again, eh? Stone doesn't respond. His thoughts are elsewhere, calculating, assessing, preparing for whatever may come. The rogue slows his pace, falling back to walk alongside him. He glances up, looking impossibly small next to the shadow monk. Master Stone, he ventures, I just wanted to say thank you. I know you didn't have to do this. We're not much compared to the legends about you, just thanks. Stone glances down at him, the hint of a smirk tugging at his lips. You're not much at all, he replies bluntly, but it takes courage to ask death for help. Just don't die before you see the fight. The rogue's mouth opens, then closes as he considers the words. He gives a small, determined nod and jogs ahead to retake his position at the front. A few hours pass, and the sun dips low, casting long shadows that dance among the gnarled roots and skeletal trees. Stone can feel it before he sees it, the scent of iron and the taste of blood in the air. He stops, raising one hand, and the party halts immediately, their instincts not yet sharpened, but their fear keen and alert. He moves forward silently, and the group follows. A few steps more, and they see it. A ruined cart, splintered and overturned, with bodies scattered around. Human, elf, a dwarf, all freshly killed, their wounds still bleeding, arrows embedded in the wood. Stone kneels by a body, a ranger, judging by the attire. He notes the blood pattern, the direction of the fatal blow. The dwarf checks the tracks, grumbling curses under his breath.
bandits, the dwarf mutters. Damn lot of 'em. But something's off. Tracks are too spread out. They attacked from all sides. The tiefling whispers, eyes wide. The Black Host? Could they already be this far? South? Stone straightens, his eyes narrowing. He senses something unnatural, a ripple of malice in the air. The cleric moves to bless the bodies, but Stone stops her with a single gesture. She hesitates, confused. Don't waste your power, he says, his voice low. They are not at rest yet. No sooner do the words leave his mouth than one of the corpses shudders, rising to its feet, eyes blazing with sickly green light. More follow suit, their bodies moving with grotesque, jerking motions. The bard lets out a scream, and the rogue draws his blade, fear tightening his jaw. Stone doesn't hesitate. In a blur of movement, he vanishes, shadows rippling around him, and reappears at the center of the group of risen corpses. His hands move in complex pattern, and a wave of void energy bursts outward, disintegrating the nearest undead. Those that remain are drawn toward him, but he weaves through them like smoke, breaking necks and shattering limbs with effortless precision. The party watches in awe as the shadows themselves seem to obey his will. When the last corpse falls, Stone straightens, brushing dust from his shoulder. He turns back to the party, his eyes flickering with dark purpose. The dead rise under their banner. This is no mere invasion. It is corruption. Steel yourselves. The rogue swallows, giving a shaky nod, and the others tighten their grips on their weapons. The bard steps closer, her voice almost a whisper. You didn't even break a sweat. Stone glances at her, his expression indifferent. I don't sweat. Keep moving. As they push onward, the weight of their quest presses down on them, but so does the unspoken reassurance. They are traveling with death itself, and death doesn't falter. The forest deepens, the trees becoming ancient giants draped in thick, hanging moss. The air grows colder, and an unnatural mist settles around their ankles, swirling like spectral tendrils. The party moves cautiously, weapons drawn, eyes darting at every rustle and whisper. Master Stone walks behind them, his steps utterly silent, his presence like a dark shadow trailing the group. The rogue gestures for the party to halt, kneeling to examine the ground. Tracks, humanoid, not too old. Bandits, probably, he murmurs. The dwarf snorts, hefting his axe onto his shoulder. Ain't bandits that bother me. It's the damned quiet, he grumbles, eyes scanning the underbrush. The cleric holds her holy symbol tightly, whispering a prayer under her breath. The tiefling wizard narrows his eyes, muttering something in infernal, his staff glowing faintly. The bard stands in the center, nervously tuning her lute to keep her hands from shaking. Suddenly, an arrow whistles out of the shadows, embedding itself in the ground at the rogue's feet. He stifles a yelp, and the party drops into a defensive stance. A raspy voice calls out from the trees. Leave your valuables and walk away, and we might just let you live. A dozen rough-looking men step out of the shadows, weapons drawn, daggers, rusted swords, and one man holding a crossbow cocked and ready. The rogue grits his teeth, stepping forward. We're not carrying much. Just let us pass. We've got no quarrel with you. The leader of the bandits, a wiry human with a snake tattoo winding around his neck, grins wickedly. Oh, I'm afraid that's not how it works, lad. You lot look soft. Easy pickings. How about you drop your gear, and we won't slit your throats? The dwarf scoffs. Like hell we will. Come and try it. He brandishes his axe, and the bandits laugh, their confidence apparent. The cleric whispers, Stay behind me, to the bard, raising her symbol and invoking a blessing. The tiefling points his staff, sparks flickering at the tip, though his hand shakes. The rogue slowly lowers his stance, ready to spring. The bandits don't wait for the standoff to escalate. One lunges at the rogue, and he parries desperately, the impact jarring his arm. Another bandit rushes the cleric, who narrowly deflects the strike with her shield. The dwarf charges forward, roaring, and cleaving into the thigh of an attacker, blood spraying across the ground. The wizard tries to cast a spell, but his aim is wild, a bolt of fire scorching the ground instead of the enemy. The bard lets out a high-pitched, frantic chord that seems to distract one of the bandits for just a moment, enough for the rogue to slip his dagger between the man's ribs. Despite their lack of coordination, the party holds its ground, but it's desperate, messy skirmish. The rogue takes a gash across his shoulder, the dwarf is bleeding from a cut on his scalp, and the cleric's shield arm is trembling from the impacts. The tiefling fumbles his incantations, panic evident in his eyes. Master Stone remains where he is, arms folded, watching impassively as the chaos unfolds. He can see every mistake, the rogue's hesitation before striking, the dwarf's overextension after a swing, the wizard's lack of focus and control. The bard's music wavers, breaking her rhythm as fear clouds her mind. One bandit slips behind the cleric, raising a knife to slit her throat. The bard screams a warning, but the cleric is slow to react. At the last second, the rogue dives forward, knocking the bandit aside, but the knife slices his side, drawing a deep wound. The bandit leader moves in, seeing an opening, and swings his sword at the rogue. The tiefling tries to cast a shield spell, but it fizzles out. Just as the rogue is about to be struck down, the dwarf steps in, taking the blow on his shoulder and responding with a brutal chop that takes the leader's arm clean off. The man screams, clutching the stump, before the rogue puts a dagger through his heart. The remaining bandits hesitate, their leader's death rattling their resolve. One by one, they break and flee into the trees, leaving their fallen comrades behind. The party stands in the aftermath, breathing heavily, blood soaking their clothes. The cleric rushes to the rogue, pressing her hands against his wound and whispering healing prayers. The dwarf wipes his axe on a fallen bandit's cloak, grumbling about amateurs. The bard is trembling, but manages to hum a soothing tune, trying to calm the group's nerves. The wizard just stares at the corpses, his hand shaking too hard to grip his staff. Master Stone steps forward, his presence like a sudden chill. The party straightens, unsure whether to be proud or ashamed. The rogue, grimacing at his wound, knits together, glances up at Stone. Why didn't you help? Stone looks down at him, eyes hard as granite. Because you need to know how much you bleed before you die. You needed to see how little your courage matters when your skills are hollow. You survived. Barely. Do you understand why I did nothing? The rogue, still catching his breath, nods slowly. Because if we can't survive a few bandits, we have no business fighting an army. Stone grunts in approval, turning to examine the fallen bodies. Your fear is your enemy. Learn to silence it. If you fight like that again, you'll die before you even reach your real foes. The dwarf huffs, his pride bruised but his resolve intact. Next time, I'll split their skulls faster. Damn whelps barely knew how to swing a sword. The wizard looks down, ashamed. I I froze. Couldn't cast properly.
Stone narrows his eyes at the tiefling.
You were thinking about dying. Stop that. Focus on killing instead.
The bard hesitates before asking, Did we pass your test? Stone doesn't answer immediately, instead kicking one of the corpses aside to check for useful gear. Eventually he turns back to them, his face impassive.
You survived. That's enough for now. Patch up, learn from it, keep moving. Death doesn't care whether you're ready or not. It only waits until you stumble.
The group nods, solemn and weary, but resolute. They collect themselves and search the bodies for supplies. Master Stone glances at the tree line, sensing movement beyond sight. There are more dangers ahead, and the Black Host is closer than they realize. For now, he allows them to process their victory, their first taste of blood and terror. It's not strength yet, but it's something to build on. And for the first time since leaving the Citadel, Master Stone feels a faint whisper of nostalgia. The memory of being young and reckless, facing death without knowing its true shape. With a slight smirk, he follows the group as they set off again, walking at the rear like a shadow haunting their every step. Part 2. The forest finally yields to a small clearing, and the road calls for a halt. The sun has dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that mingle with the mists clinging to the ground. They gather around a small fire the dwarf grumbles into existence, its light flickering against their tired faces. The cleric wraps bandages around the rogue's shoulder, and the bard tunes her lute, her fingers trembling with leftover adrenaline. Master Stone remains a distance away, seemingly uninterested in the camp setup. His back leans against a knotted ancient tree, his eyes closed as if asleep. The party barely dares to look his way, unsure whether to feel grateful or resentful for his silence during the battle. When the cleric finishes her work, she sinks to the ground, exhaustion etched into her face. The tiefling fiddles with his staff, tracing patterns in the dirt, while mumbling the incantation he failed to cast earlier. The dwarf sharpens his axe, muttering curses under his breath, while the bard plucks a few gentle chords, trying to ease the tension. Then, without warning, Master Stone rises and steps forward, moving as if untouched by fatigue. His presence silences the party, and without a word, he walks among them, placing a hand briefly on each of their shoulders or heads. A deep, resonant hum reverberates through the air, and they feel warmth flood their limbs. Bruises fade, cuts knit together, and exhaustion drains away. They stare at him wide-eyed, realizing that all their injuries and pain are gone. The rogue tests his shoulder, finding it supple and strong. The cleric glances at her hands, amazed at how the strain of healing has vanished. Even the wizard, still shaken from his earlier failure, feels his magic pulse stronger than before. The bard can't help but break the silence, her voice almost reverent. You healed us? Stone doesn't answer, merely reaching into his pack and producing a curious instrument. A slender flute, carved from the black wood, etched with faint, swirling patterns. He sits near the fire and gives a nod towards the bard. She hesitates, then picks up her lute and joins him, unsure what to expect. Stone's finger traces the flute, and without any grand announcement, he begins to play. The sound that emerges is low and haunting, like the whisper of wind through cavernous halls, mournful but beautiful. The bard follows with soft chords, adding melody to the shadowy notes. The song flows like a river of memory, ancient and powerful. As they play, the party feels something strange washing over them: clarity, strength, and resolve. The rogue's mind sharpens, his reflexes attuning to every flicker of movement. The dwarf's muscles feel more resilient, his strikes promising greater power. The wizard senses his magic stabilizing, flowing like a calm, controlled river. The cleric's heart swells with renewed faith, and the bard herself feels the precision of her notes strengthening, almost as if her hands are guided by some ethereal force. As the last notes drift away, the group sits in stunned silence, feeling the power thrumming through their veins. The bard looks down at her lute, half expecting it to glow. The rogue glances around as if the forest itself has grown more vivid. "What was that?" the tiefling whispers, eyes wide. Stone lowers the flute, wipes it off with a cloth before stowing it away. "Sound shapes the soul," he says quietly. "You each carry a weakness within. This will silence it for a time. Remember the feeling." The bard looks as if she wants to ask 100 questions, but Stone rises abruptly and walks away from the campfire, vanishing into the shadows beyond the clearing. They watch him go, uncertain whether to call him back or leave him be. He finds a place, far from the firelight, where the cold air bites and the darkness presses close. Sitting cross-legged on a rough stone, he closes his eyes and allows his breath to become one with the night, his presence blending into the void. The chill seeps into his bones, but he welcomes it, reminding himself that his strength is not warmth or comfort, but the endless edge of discipline honed over decades of war and silence. As he meditates, he allows his mind to slip away from the world, seeking solace in the stillness where neither life nor death holds sway. His heart slows, his breath quiets, and he becomes part of the night itself, as formless and unforgiving as the void. The voices from the campfire grow distant, the laughter hesitant, as the bard picks up a brighter tune to lift the other's spirits. Stone listens without truly hearing, allowing his mind to empty of everything but the rhythm of the earth and the whisper of the wind. He knows that they will mistake his distance for apathy, but that is of no consequence. Let them grow strong in spite of him. Let them think him cruel if it makes them fight harder. Attachment makes people weak, and he has seen enough love and loyalty crumble into betrayal. For now, he will be the blade that cuts away their doubt, the shadow that demands they grow stronger, whether they hate him or revere him. As dawn approaches, he remains unmoving, still and silent, a sentinel in the dark, guarding their fragile hope without needing them to know it. When morning comes, he will return as if he never left, and they will march onward with the courage they scraped together during the night. And so he sits, unyielding and patient, waiting for the dawn to call him into the world once more. The road stretches onward, winding through valleys and shadowed forest paths as the group forges ahead, determined to reach the shattered bridge. Master Stone follows in silence, his presence like a specter trailing behind, always watching, never interfering. The party has grown more confident, bolstered by their survival of the bandit attack and their mysterious power granted by Stone's music. They encounter small challenges along the way: a trap path that the rogue deftly navigates, a venomous snake that the dwarf crushes with a well-aimed boot, and an encounter with a merchant whose cart is stuck in the mud. The cleric insists on helping, despite the others' reservations, and they spend nearly an hour prying the cart loose. Stone watches from a distance, seeing the merchant's eyes dart to their belongings with undisguised greed. But the party finishes the task, none the wiser, and receives nothing but a gruff thank you before the man whips his mule and continues on his way. As night falls once more, they make camp beside a small stream. The rogue and dwarf tend to the fire, the bard practices a new melody, and the cleric prepares a small meal with their dwindling rations. The wizard sets up wards, though his control still wavers. Just as they settle in, a rustling from the trees catches their attention. A lone figure stumbles into the firelight, a ragged, bleeding man in a tattered tunic. He collapses at the edge of camp, gasping for breath. The cleric rushes to his side without hesitation, pouring healing magic into his wounds. "Please, help me," the man croaks. "Bandits, they took my family, my wife and son, just beyond the ridge. Please, they'll kill them." The party exchanges worried looks. The rogue immediately rises, gripping his blade. "We have to help him. We just can't leave them." The dwarf grunts, sizing up the man. "Seems strange, don't it? A man running around bandits alone and nothing chasing him?" The cleric glares at him. "Show some compassion. We can't ignore someone in need." The bard steps forward, her face torn with indecision. "What if it's a trap? We could be walking right into an ambush." The rogue shakes his head. "We can't ignore it. We just can't. Even if it's a trap, these people might still need us. We have to try." The wizard hesitates, glancing at Stone, who stands at the camp's edge, arms folded, silent as always. The rogue takes the man's hand, promising to save his family. The group quickly gathers their weapons and gear, falling into formation as the wounded man points towards the ridge. Stone doesn't move, just watches with a detached calm. The rogue calls back, "Aren't you coming?" For a moment, Stone says nothing. Then, without shifting his gaze, he murmurs, "No." The group looks bewildered, but the rogue doesn't question it, and they press on. Stone stays behind, his eyes sharp as flint, watching the man's expression subtly change, a smirk of triumph flickering across his face before he wipes it away. Stone waits for the sound, the distant clash of steel and the shouts of alarm. It takes mere minutes before it rings out, followed by desperate cries and the unmistakable roar of the dwarf. Stone vanishes from the campsite, melting into the shadows as he glides soundlessly through the trees. He emerges at the ridge's peak, seeing the ambush unfold. The group is surrounded, bandits twice as numerous as the last encounter, led by a muscular brute with a wolfskin cloak. The cleric is being dragged by two thugs, the rogue and the dwarf fighting side by side, desperate to protect her. The bard is trying to cast some sort of dissonant melody, but the wizard has already been struck down, groaning and clutching his ribs. The man who lured them grins wickedly, holding a knife to the bard's throat. "Fools," he sneers, "you'll make fine ransom, or slaves." Stone doesn't intervene. He simply steps out from the shadows, his presence immediately drawing the attention of the bandit leader. The brute sneers, holding his axe high. "You one of theirs? You're late to the party, old man." Stone's expression remains impassive, his voice cold. "What are they worth to you?" The bandit leader smirks. "Enough to break, bleed, and sell. Maybe even keep that pretty one." He jerks his head towards the bard. "For a while. What's it to you?" Stone steps closer, eyes like a hawk. "You are not clever. I see your fear, leading from the rear, sending a wounded man to test their softness. You exploit compassion because you cannot create loyalty." The leader growls, waving his axe. I'll make you regret those words, old man. Stone continues, undeterred. You fear those who serve without question. You fear those who follow because they believe. You know that the moment you show weakness, they will turn on you. So you pick the goodness of others because you don't understand it. You are weak. The bandit leader roars and charges. Stone doesn't move, not even as the brute swings his axe. At the last instant, Stone sidesteps, snapping his fingers. Shadows ripple from his feet and seize the leader's legs, dragging him down to his knees. Stone kneels beside him, voice a soft whisper. True power is not brutality. It is loyalty. It is strength born from trust, not force. You have none. With a flick of his wrist, the shadows crush the leader's spine, and he collapses, lifeless. The other bandits hesitate, seeing their leader fall without so much as a fight. Stone glare pierces each one. You have two choices: run or die where you stand. The bandits drop their weapons immediately and bolt into the trees, unwilling to risk it. Stone does not chase them. He turns to the captive party, his eyes hard. The cleric looks devastated, guilt etched across her face. We just wanted to help. I thought your desire to save them was exploited. Stone interrupts, his tone ruthless. You believe your compassion will change the world? It will not. Goodness without caution is naive. If you cannot control your virtue, it will become your downfall. The rogue grimaces, still clutching his side. So we just become heartless? Is that it? Stone's gaze shifts to him. No. You learn to discern where good is needed and where it is a liability. Save those who cannot save themselves, but not at the cost of your own life. Use good as a weapon, not a weakness. The bard looks down, her fingers trembling on the lute. The wizard manages to sit up, wincing. I should have known it was a trap. Stone glances at him, his expression almost pitying. Your heart is too soft to survive as it is. Harden it, or it will be cut from your chest. He turns away, walking to the campsite without another word, leaving them to gather their thoughts and wounded pride. As he steps into the dark once more, he allows a faint smirk to cross his lips. If they hate him for this lesson, so be it. Better to be hated and live than be loved and die a fool. By the time the party staggers back into camp, bruised and weary, the fire is already crackling warmly. Master Stone sits at the far side, his back to a gnarled ancient tree. A small simple pot simmers over the flames, emitting a fragrant, earthy aroma that mingles with the forest air. He doesn't acknowledge their return, though his keen ears note their labored breathing and occasional groans of pain. The dwarf limps forward, giving Stone a wary look. What's that you got cooking, old man? He grunts. Stone doesn't respond immediately, merely lifting the pot and pouring the thick, steaming liquid into wooden cups he's carved from fallen branches. The brew is dark and almost syrupy, with flecks of crushed leaves and ground roots swirling within. He sets the cups on a flat stone, one for each of them, and then walks away without a word, vanishing into the shadows at the stone's edge. The rogue picks up a cup, sniffing cautiously. Smells weird, like moss and burnt wood. The bard hesitantly picks up one as well, peering into the murky liquid. Maybe it's something to help us recover? Or it could just be something he drinks himself? The cleric holds hers close, examining it carefully. He wouldn't poison us, would he? The tiefling wizard stares into his cup, unsure. If he wanted us dead, we'd already be dead. Maybe it's some kind of remedy? The dwarf shrugs, raising his cup. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Besides, after that last fight, I could use a little something to take the edge off. With a hearty gulp, he downs it in one go, wiping his beard with the back of his hand. The rogue follows suit, grimacing at the taste, bitter like ashes and mud. The bard sips hers cautiously, while the cleric hesitates before finally taking a sip. The wizard, last as always, drinks with a wince. It takes only moments before they feel it. The rush of warmth spreading through their bellies, up through their chests and into their minds. The firelight bends and stretches, colors bleeding together in vibrant patterns. The sounds of the forest take on a rhythmic pulse, and each breath feels like inhaling pure energy. One by one, they sink to the ground, visions overtaking their senses. Part 3. The Rogue's Vision. He finds himself in a dark alleyway surrounded by towering, shifting walls that stretch into infinity. Shadows loom, mocking him, whispering doubts into his ears. No matter where he moves, blades slash out from the darkness, and he's constantly on the defensive. Just as he's about to collapse, he sees a faint glimmer, a single coin lying in the dirt. Picking it up, he finds that it burns with a golden light, and the shadows recoil. Realization dawns. His survival doesn't lie in fighting every threat, but in finding the single vital opportunity, the one action that shifts the entire game. The dwarf's vision. He is deep underground, in the heart of a collapsing mine, his clanmates screaming and dying around him. He's digging frantically with his bare hands, trying to save them, but the earth keeps swallowing them whole. Then he hears a rumble, a voice as old as the mountains themselves. It tells him that strength alone won't hold the earth. It must be supported by will, tempered by wisdom. He slams his axe into the ground, and the rock obeys, forming sturdy supports. He knows now that his strength must serve as a foundation, not just a weapon. The cleric's vision. She walks through a vast battlefield littered with broken bodies, her hands drenched in blood, both her own and others. The light from her holy symbol is fading, flickering like a dying flame. She falls to her knees, pleading for divine guidance. A figure appears, shadowy and unclear, who whispers that faith without endurance is hollow. To truly heal, she must endure the wounds herself, bearing the pain of others without breaking. She stands again, clutching her symbol, and the light bursts forth, blinding and pure. The bard's vision. She is on a grand stage before a faceless crowd, playing her lute with all her heart, but no one listens. Panic surges as she plays harder and faster, desperate for applause. Then the strings snap, and silence envelops her. In that void she hears a quiet, haunting melody, the song of her own soul. It's simple, unadorned, but achingly beautiful. When she plays it, the crowd becomes still, captivated. She understands that authenticity moves hearts, more than showmanship. The wizard's vision. He stands at the edge of a vast chasm, watching as wild, unrestrained magic tears the land apart. His staff is cracked, leaking power that he cannot control. A voice in the wind tells him that the power without precision is destruction. He needs focus, a single, unwavering purpose to channel his will. Concentrating on one pure thought, he raises his staff, and the magic coalesces, forming a bridge of pure energy across the abyss. As the visions fade, the fire has burned low, and dawn breaks over the treetops. The party stirs, groggy and disoriented, but with a new resolve burning in their hearts. Master Stone appears at the camp's edge, seeming unaffected by the night's chill. He glances at them, noting their expressions. The rogue looks up at him, his voice uncertain. "What did you give us?" Stone says nothing, his face impassive, but the barest hint of a smirk crosses his lips. He turns away, moving back to the edge of camp to resume his silent vigil, leaving them to piece together the meaning of their own transformations. One by one, they rise and prepare for the day, each carrying a newfound purpose and sharper resolve. As they pack their belongings, the dwarf grunts out a laugh, shaking his head. "Crazy old bastard knows more than he says. Don't know whether to thank him or punch him." The bard just smiles faintly, her fingers dancing over the lute strings with a gentler, more deliberate touch. The wizard watches Stone's back, unsure whether to be grateful or wary. The cleric holds her holy symbol tighter, her faith steadier than before. The rogue glances at Stone's dark silhouette against the sunrise and nods to himself. They are stronger now, more than they were yesterday, and for the first time since they left the Citadel, they feel like something more than just survivors. They feel like heroes in the making. The party moves forward with a quiet but renewed sense of purpose. The rogue takes the lead, scouting the path ahead with sharper instincts than before, his movements more fluid and confident. The dwarf marches beside him, his axe resting on his shoulder, muttering less and keeping his eyes open for threats. The cleric walks at the center, her holy symbol clutched in one hand as she murmurs quiet prayers of protection. The bard hums softly, the melody weaving through the air like a living thing, calming frayed nerves. The wizard lags a bit behind, eyes scanning the treetops and ground, his staff tapping rhythmically with each step. Master Stone follows in silence, his steps soundless as always, blending into the shifting shadows. His presence is still a daunting weight on the party's minds, but they seem to have accepted that his guidance comes without explanation or comfort. The rogue glances back occasionally, but Stone's gaze never falters, giving nothing away. The path winds through thicker brush and darker woods, and the distant sound of rushing water hints at a nearby river. The rogue signals to halt, crouching low and peering through a break in the trees. "There's a bridge ahead, wooden and worn down. Looks like it's been rebuilt a few times. A guard post, too. 2 men on either side," he whispers. The dwarf grunts. "Easy pickings." The cleric frowns, her brow creasing. "We don't know if they're hostile. Maybe they're just keeping the bridge safe." The bard nods. "If we just walk up to them and ask, they might let us pass without a fight?" The wizard shakes his head. "Or they'll take one look at us and charge toll. Or worse." Stone watches their quiet debate from the back, his expression unchanging. Eventually the rogue makes a decision. "We'll approach openly, act like travelers, not warriors. If they get hostile, we'll deal with it then." They move cautiously to the edge of the bridge, weapons sheathed but within reach. As they approach, one of the guards, a burly human with a dented helmet, steps forward, raising a hand. "Hold there! Crossing fee, 10 silver per head," he calls out, eyeing the group with suspicion. The dwarf scowls. "That's a robbery. What's the fee for?" The other guard, a wiry half-elf with a wicked grin, leans on his spear. "For maintaining the bridge, of course. Or would you rather swim?" The cleric steps forward, trying to appeal to their decency. "We're on an urgent quest. We have little money, but we mean you no harm. Can't you let us pass?" The burly guard snorts. "Urgent quests don't put food on our table, missy. Pay up, or turn around." The rogue hesitates, clearly torn. The bard looks at him, whispering, "Maybe we can play for them? Earn our passage?" The wizard huffs, irritated. "They don't look like the type to appreciate music." Before they can decide, the half-elf guard whistles sharply, and more men emerge from the woods, 5 in total, all rough-looking, with mismatched armor and weapons. One of them, a particularly cruel-looking man with a scar down his cheek, chuckles. "Oh, you don't have the coin? Guess we'll be taking whatever you got then," he sneers. The cleric opens her mouth to protest, but the rogue steps forward, his voice calm. "We don't want trouble. We'll pay. Just let us cross." The dwarf growls but doesn't object as the rogue dips through his pouch, counting out coins. The bandits close in, greed lighting up their faces. Master Stone stays in the shadows at the rear, unmoving. He watches how the rogue handles the pressure, calculating the risks, the willingness to sacrifice pride and coin for safety. The party's strategy is cautious, favoring diplomacy. But Stone senses the underlying tension, the rogue's barely containing desire to fight, and the dwarf's clear irritation at being extorted. As the coins exchange hands, one of the bandits suddenly reaches out for the cleric's holy symbol, yanking it from her neck. "Pretty trinket," he grins. "This'll cover the toll, too." The cleric gasps, reaching out instinctively, but the bandit shoves her back. The rogue's hand twitches toward his blade, but he hesitates, caught between keeping the peace and defending his friend. The dwarf has no such reservations. He lets out a furious roar, charging forward, but one of the guards trips him with a spear shaft, sending him sprawling. The bard screams, and the wizard attempts to cast a spell, but another bandit smashes his staff to the ground, cutting the incantation short. In that instant, Stone moves. He appears behind the half-elf guard as if stepping out of air itself, and his hands like knives slicing through muscle and tendon. The man crumples, his weapon clattering to the ground. The others barely have time to register his presence before Stone dispatches 2 more with fluid, brutal strikes, crushing throats and snapping limbs. The rogue pulls his blade, fighting back to back with the dwarf, while the bard gathers her courage and starts playing a war chant that pulses through the air like a heartbeat. The wizard finally steadies himself and unleashes a bolt of fire, scorching one of the bandits who tries to flee. Within moments it's over. The guards and bandits lie broken and unmoving, their blood soaking into the ground. Stone wipes his hand on his cloak, indifferent to the carnage. The cleric retrieves her holy symbol, hands trembling. They just wanted money. We could have." Stone's voice cuts through her guilt like a knife. "They wanted your life. You gave them money and they wanted more. Mercy given to the cruel is cruelty to the weak." The rogue sheathes his blade, shaking his head. "We could have avoided this." Stone narrows his eyes at him. "You think avoiding conflict is strength? Fear of confrontation emboldens the wicked. You thought giving in would make them go away. All you did was feed their greed. Next time, they would have killed you just to see how much you bleed." The bard glances between them, hesitant. But we didn't know. We didn't know they would push for more. Stone looks down at her, his expression hard and unforgiving. You never know. That's why you never bend your knee to scum. The world doesn't care about your intentions, only your resolve. Be good, but never be weak. The wizard shakes his head, muttering under his breath. Mercy is weakness, then? No, Stone replies without missing a beat. Mercy is a privilege of the strong. Earn it. With that, he walks past them, moving ahead on the road without looking back. The party lingers, haunted by the brutal lesson. As they follow, the rogue silently vows to learn from the encounter, to find the balance between mercy and ruthlessness. And behind them, the bridge stands silent, marked now by death, a grim testament to the difference between kindness and survival. The sun sinks low, and the forest darkens around the party as they trudge on, weariness dragging at their limbs. The rogue grumbles to himself, while the dwarf's stomach growls loud enough to make the bard laugh. The wizard, still clutching his cracked staff, mutters incantations to keep his mind sharp despite the fatigue. Can't believe we didn't take some rations from those bandits, the rogue mutters. The cleric, trying to lift their spirit, forces a smile. We'll find something soon. We could forage or hunt. The forest must have game. Stone follows at a distance, his presence like a living shadow moving with unnatural grace. His ears catch the faint rustling in the underbrush, a predator stalking just beyond their perception. His senses sharpen as he moves even further behind the group, allowing them to continue on without realizing they've entered the creature's hunting grounds. The party bickers and complains, their hunger growing into frustration. As they pass between a pair of ancient twisted oaks, the air becomes still, too still. Even the birds have ceased their songs, and the forest holds its breath. The rogue pauses, glancing around. Anyone else feel like we're being watched? Before anyone can respond, the forest explodes with movement. A massive beast, 7 feet tall at the shoulder, erupts from the foliage. Its fur is black as midnight, with glowing amber eyes and a maw lined with razor-sharp fangs. It moves like a blur, swiping at the dwarf who barely rolls away in time. The rogue curses, drawing his blade, while the wizard attempts to unleash a bolt of ice, but the creature dodges effortlessly. The bard tries to muster a defensive melody, but the sound only seems to agitate it. The cleric raises her holy symbol, shouting a prayer of protection, but fear has slowed her reaction. The beast lunges at the rogue, who dives aside, the ground shattering beneath the creature's claws. Just as it coils to pounce again, it halts, stiffening as if caught by invisible threads. Master Stone is behind it, one hand pressed against its spine, shadows wrapping around its limbs. He moves his other hand in a fluid motion, pressing his palm against the base of its skull. In an instant, the beast goes limp, collapsing to the ground, dead, before it even realized its life was over. Stone wipes his hand on his cloak and looks down at the massive carcass, seemingly unfazed. He glances back at the party, their faces wide-eyed and breathless. The rogue manages to speak first. What was that thing? Stone doesn't answer, instead drawing a thin curved blade from his belt and slicing into the creature's side with surgical precision. The rich, dark meat beneath the fur steams as he carves, and the scent that fills the air is intoxicating, a deep, savory aroma that makes their mouths water despite their fear. The dwarf cautiously approaches, sheathing his axe. Why, that's dire merc bear meat, he mutters, impressed despite himself. Folks say eating it give a man strength of a dozen warriors. Stone cuts slabs of the meat and sets them on stones around the fire, watching as the juices sizzle and drip into the flames. He makes no move to eat, merely ensuring the pieces are cooked through before stepping back and sitting on a rock at the camp's edge. The party, hesitant at first, begins to eat. The flavor is rich beyond anything they've tasted, smoky, succulent, and primal. As they consume it, they feel warmth spreading through their bodies, fatigue melting away, their senses sharpen, and their muscles feel more solid, like iron forged anew. Even the wizard notices his magic resonate more powerfully, like tapping into a deeper well. The bard wipes her mouth, eyes wide. I feel stronger, like my body's lighter, and my thoughts are clearer. The rogue grins, holding up his hand and feeling the energy course through his veins. Damn, I think I could take on an army right now. The cleric nods, her faith feeling more steadfast than ever. This is a blessing. I can feel my prayers being heard. The dwarf belches, pounding his chest. Best damn meal I've ever had. Almost worth getting mauled. They laugh and eat, their spirits lifting as they joke and recount the battle. The bard plays a celebratory tune, and the wizard even cracks a rare smile, his eyes flickering with newfound confidence. Stone sits apart from them, his back to the firelight, sipping from a small clay flask filled with his dark concoction. He tilts his head back, the faintest smile gracing his lips as he feels the bitter liquid flow through him. Its effect not hallucinatory for him, but a quiet, serene clarity. His eyes remain half-lidded, meditating in the cold dark, where only the faintest flicker of firelight touches his silhouette. The bard glances toward him, noticing his solitude. She almost rises to join him, but stops when she sees the subtle smile, a rare softness on his face of a man who has known nothing but shadows and war. She decides to leave him be, sensing that this moment of peace is not to be disturbed. As the others continue to eat and be merry, their senses heightened by the meat's mystical properties, Stone remains still and quiet, alone in his solace, eyes reflecting the cold, endless void of the forest night. In the silence of his mind, he relives moments of ancient battles, his own bloody hands tearing through enemies without mercy. He remembers forging himself into the unbreakable stone he has become, hardened by the endless cycle of conquest and loss. The concoction he sips does not grant him visions, as it did for the others. Instead, it brings a sense of melancholic calm, like being submerged in still waters, weightless and distant from the world. A fleeting glimpse of warmth passes through him, a memory of a time when camaraderie meant something more than survival. But as always, the feeling fades, and he remains as he is, an unwavering shadow at the edge of the fire, content to let the others dream of glory while he watches the night. Part 4. When the dawn breaks and the light filters through the dense canopy, the fire has long since burned down to embers, and the air is crisp and chilled. The rogue is the first to stir, stretching his limbs and blinking blearily at the empty camp. One by one the others wake, wiping the sleep from their eyes and noting with a sudden pang that Master Stone is nowhere to be seen. The rogue checks the area, his heart pounding. He's gone, he mutters, almost incredulous. The dwarf grunts, scratching his beard. Not the first time he's wandered off on his own. Probably scouting or something. The bard frowns, strumming a light chord on her lute to center herself. He wouldn't just leave us without saying anything, would he? The cleric, still clutching her holy symbol, glances around as if half expecting Stone to emerge from the shadows. Maybe he saw something last night, something that needed dealing with. The wizard shakes his head, a small spark of doubt flickering in his gaze. Or maybe he just didn't want to be around us anymore. There's a heavy silence as the realization sets in. Master Stone has truly left them. No tracks, no words of farewell, just an absence that feels larger than his presence ever did. The rogue grits his teeth, trying to suppress his frustration. We don't have time to sit around waiting. He wouldn't want that. We have to keep moving. The dwarf nods in agreement, though his eyes linger on the path where Stone would normally be following. Aye, if the old bastard wants to meet up later, he will. Probably just testing us again, seeing how we manage without him. The cleric hesitates, but eventually agrees. He wouldn't abandon us entirely, right? He's testing our resolve. The wizard's expression is unreadable, though he says nothing. The bard plays a somber melody, trying to lift the mood despite the palpable absence. Taking the lead, the rogue sets them on the path again, moving with more confidence than before. Though Stone is gone, the lingering effect of the dire merc-bear meat pulses within them, heightening their senses and sharpening their instincts. They feel stronger, as if they've shed a layer of fear overnight. As they trek through the woods, the rogue keeps a sharp eye on the terrain, every noise and shift in the shadows making his heart race. Yet somehow he knows that if Stone wanted to watch them from the darkness, none of them would ever know. The dwarf grumbles, though there's a hint of admiration in his tone. If you wanted to leave us, good riddance. Don't need his cold shoulder all the time anyhow. The bard gives him a sideways look. You're lying, and you know it. You miss him already. The dwarf snorts but doesn't deny it. The cleric closes her eyes for a moment, whispering a prayer for safety, while the wizard murmurs incantations under his breath to keep his focus sharp. Hours pass, and they find themselves approaching the outskirts of the Deadwood, a haunted forest where the Black Host was last reported. As they come to the edge, the rogue signals them to stop, his senses heightened. I feel it, he whispers. Something's wrong here, like the air is heavier. The cleric shivers. There's something unholy about this place. The bard glances at the wizard, who's already scanning the surroundings with narrowed eyes. Magic is here, distorted, twisted, like the air itself is alive. The dwarf tightens his grip on his axe. We can handle it. Just gotta watch each other's backs. The rogue takes a deep breath, gathering his resolve. Right. Let's keep moving. No matter what happens, we stick together. As they cross the boundary into the Deadwood, they feel a chill wrap around their bones. The trees themselves seem to lean inward, their branches like skeletal fingers grasping at the sky. Shadows shift unnaturally and whispers fill the air, words that don't make sense but crawl under the skin. In the silence that follow, they can't help but wonder if Stone is watching, hidden among the shadows, or if he truly left them to face their danger alone. Whether they feel betrayed or liberated is uncertain, but they know one thing. His teachings and presence have left a mark on them. No longer helpless wanderers, they march on, stronger, sharper, and more wary of the world's cruelty. The shadow of their master may be gone, but his lessons remain carved into their spirits. And somewhere, far from their path, Master Stone sits on a rock overlooking a vast mist-filled valley. His eyes are closed, his breath slow and even, as he meditates. The concoction in his flask sends a faint, pleasant burn through his chest, and a small, fleeting smile curves his lips. He knows they will either survive or perish on their own merit now, free from his hand guiding them. In his solitude, he breathes in the cold air and lets the wind carry away the last threads of attachment. The Deadwood stretches out before them like a rotting carcass, trees twisted and blackened, their bark cracked and oozing in sickly dark sap. The ground is littered with brittle bones and clusters of fungus that grow faintly in the gloom. The air is thick with decay and an oppressive silence that presses against their ears like cotton. The rogue moves cautiously, signaling the group to spread out while staying within sight. The bard hums a low, nervous tune, trying to keep their spirits from crumbling. The cleric grips her holy symbol tightly, whispering her blessings as they advance. The wizard's staff glows faintly, shedding enough light to keep the deepest shadows at bay. The dwarf mutters curses under his breath, his axe at the ready. The whispers begin to coalesce into something more tangible, snatches of sentences, words spoken in a dozen different voices. Some sound like pleading, others like mocking laughter. The bard stops playing, shuddering as one particularly sharp whisper seems to cut through her soul. "What are they saying?" she asks, looking around fearfully. The wizard shakes his head. "Illusions! This place is steeped in dark magic. Something ancient. It's warping reality itself." The rogue presses forward, his jaw clenched. "Just ignore it. We need to find the path through this place and reach the shattered bridge." Suddenly, the whispers fall silent. An unnatural hush settles, so complete it makes their ears ring. The cleric opens her mouth to say something, but a shriek cuts through the air, piercing and feral. Shapes move in the dark, white, emaciated figures crawling from the roots and undergrowth. "Ghouls!" the wizard yells, unleashing a bolt of fire at the nearest one. The creature shrieks and bursts into flame, but more swarm from the shadows, their flesh stretched taut over skeletal frames, eyes glowing with a ravenous hunger. The dwarf charges in, hacking apart one of the creatures with brutal efficiency. The rogue dances between the grasping hands, slicing tendons and hamstringing the ghouls that lunge at him. The cleric holds her holy symbol aloft, radiant light blazing forth and forcing the monsters to recoil, their flesh burning as they scream. The bard begins a fierce rhythmic melody, invigorating the party and making their movements sharper and more coordinated. The wizard hurls arcane missiles, each bolt shattering a ghoul's head with pinpoint precision. But they keep coming. Too many and too fast. The rogue takes a claw across the thigh, staggering back, while the dwarf gets dragged to the ground, his armor grinding against stone. The cleric blasts one off him with holy light, but two more take its place. The wizard's spells begin to falter as exhaustion sets in, and the bard's hand shakes as she struggles to keep playing. The rogue slashes desperately at a ghoul that leaps for his throat, but before the creature can sink its fangs in, something massive and lumbering crashes through the underbrush. A ghoul thrice the size of the others, with grotesque pulsating growths covering its shoulders. It bellows, and the other ghouls stop momentarily, hissing and retreating slightly. The dwarf pulls himself to his feet, wiping blood from his mouth. "That's the leader. Cut it down, and the rest might scatter." The wizard unleashes a powerful fireball, but the ghoul leader absorbs the blast with a sickening squelch, its tumors bursting but knitting together almost instantly. The bard charges her tune, trying to weaken the creature's resolve, but it only roars louder, charging forward like a berserk bull. The rogue hurls a dagger, embedding it in the creature's eye, but it doesn't even slow down. The cleric desperately chants, summoning divine energy and releasing a burst of radiant light that forces the smaller ghouls back, but the leader barrels through it with sheer ferocity. Just as it reaches them, it stops dead in its tracks. There's a sound like a faint whisper of wind, and suddenly a fine, almost invisible string of shadow coils around the creature's neck. The ghoul leader makes a strangled, choking sound, its limbs seizing. Then its head drops off its shoulders, rolling into the dirt, and the massive body collapses with a thunderous thud. The party barely has time to register what happened before the remaining ghouls scatter into the darkness, hissing and wailing. The rogue whirls around, but there's no sign of anyone else, just shadows shifting in the dim light. Did you see that? The bard asks, her voice trembling. The dwarf grunts, wiping his axe. Aye, someone cut the bastard's head clean off, without getting near it. Not many can pull that off. The cleric nods around, eyes wide. Was it him? The wizard narrows his eyes, as if searching the shadows. If it was, he's not making himself known. The rogue sighs, wiping sweat from his brow. Figures. Even when he's not here, he's still saving our asses. The bard hesitates, then starts playing a slow, mournful tune, more for herself than anyone else. The others catch their breath, tending to their minor injuries and making sure none of the ghouls are still moving. After the fight, they push on cautiously, more aware than ever that they've been watched, protected from the dark, but only so long as they can stand on their own feet. As they reach a clearing to rest and patch themselves up, the rogue speaks softly, almost as if to himself. You're still out there, aren't you? Testing us, making sure we don't get ourselves killed. The bard offers a faint smile. Maybe he just couldn't stand seeing us die, like fools. The dwarf scoffs, but his tone lacks its usual gruffness. He's too stubborn to let us go off and die without learning a damned lesson first. The wizard glances back the way they came, sensing the faintest echo of something dark and watchful. If he's out there, he's keeping his distance. Doesn't want us relying on him. The cleric gives a quiet nod. Then we honor him by moving forward, stronger, smarter, ready for whatever comes next. They press onward, leaving the rotting, darkened wood behind. Despite the tension, they feel stronger, more purposeful. Somewhere in the shadows, Master Stone watches them march on, his gaze inscrutable but approving. He knows they will face greater threats ahead, and he has no intention of guiding them through every trial. They must grow into heroes they aspire to be, worthy of the power they seek and the burdens they carry. And as the sun sets once more, Stone settles into his quiet solitude, his back against a boulder, sipping from his flask and allowing himself a faint, almost imperceptible smile. The party pushes onward, the oppressive atmosphere of the dead wood gradually giving way to the clearing that almost feels serene compared to the cursed forest behind them. They stumble upon a beautiful glade where the sunlight filters through the lush trees and the vibrant flowers carpet the ground. A crystal clear stream winds through the area, and the air feels warm and alive. For a moment, the oppressive darkness seems far behind. The rogue grins, relieved. Looks like we've made it out. Let's take a breather. The dwarf huffs, dropping his pack with a grunt. Aye, been too long since we've seen some real green. Feels good. The bard sits on a smooth stone by the stream, dipping her hands in the water. It's beautiful here, almost like it's protected somehow. The wizard looks around, sensing the vibrant energy that pulses through the glade. The magic here is different. It feels pure, untouched by the darkness. The cleric kneels and whispers a prayer, thankful for the reprieve. As they rest, they barely notice the subtle stirring in the foliage, the faint rustle that isn't just the wind. The rogue's instincts flare too late. With a shriek that seems to bend reality itself, a towering abomination crashes into the clearing, a monstrous fusion of roots, bones, and corrupted flesh, its body writhing with unnatural energy. Spindly, clawed limbs stretch outward, and faces of tormented souls scream from its mass. Behind it, dozens of smaller, twisted creatures skitter forth, amalgamations of woodland animals fused with rot and darkness. The party scrambles to their feet, weapons drawn. "Form up!" the rogue shouts. "We can't let them break our line!" The dwarf charges, bringing his axe down with brutal force, but the creature's claw sweeps him aside like a rag doll, smashing him into a boulder. The cleric raises her holy symbol, summoning a protective aura, but the creature's rotting tendrils whip through the barrier, piercing her chest and throwing her to the ground. The bard tries to play a song of resistance, but one of the smaller creatures leaps onto her, clawing viciously at her throat. She gurgles out a scream as the wizard launches bolts of energy at the abomination, but the magic dissipates against his hide like mist. The rogue dodges and slashes, trying to reach the bard, but the creature's mass expands, splitting into smaller entities that swarm him from all sides. He's overwhelmed, blades hacking desperately at the darkness drags him down. The wizard, panicked, attempts a firestorm spell, channeling every ounce of his power. The abomination surges forward, tendrils piercing his chest and lifting him into the air before flinging his lifeless body into the stream, the water running red. One by one they fall, each giving their last breath in the vain hope of surviving. The rogue fights until his arms give out, blood gushing from countless wounds. The bard's lute lies shattered, her voice silent forever. The dwarf's axe remains embedded in a creature's skull, even as his own head is crushed. The cleric's holy symbol falls from her limp fingers, her light extinguished. When the last of them lies motionless, the abomination and its spawn retreat into the shadows, drawn by some other dark calling. The glade is left soaked in blood, the air thick with the stench of death. Silence reigns for a long time until a faint rustling sound breaks it. Master Stone steps into the clearing, his eyes impassive as he surveys the carnage. His gaze sweeps over each fallen body, noting the extent of their injuries. Mortal, all of them. He kneels beside the rogue, placing a hand on the blood-soaked chest, feeling the cold stillness. His other hand brushes the bard's face, closing her lifeless eyes. He stands slowly, his face unreadable as he surveys the pure, vibrant forest around him. The flowers, the pristine water, the living creatures who cautiously peer out from the underbrush. A quiet sigh escapes his lips. "I warned you not to be weak," he whispers. Without hesitation, he places his hands on the earth, spreading his fingers wide. A ripple of dark energy pulses from his palms, and the ground beneath him cracks and splits. The shadows flow out like black veins, winding through the glade, infecting the soil and trees. The flowers wither instantly, their color draining to ash. The vibrant trees rot from the inside out, branches snapping under their own weight. The stream turns black, its pure waters choked with sludge and filth. Animals collapse where they stand, their life force sucked out, leaving only brittle bones. Stone's eyes glow with a dark, piercing light as he draws the chi from every living thing in the glade, siphoning the essence of nature itself, channeling it through his body like a conduit. He moves among the fallen, pressing his hands to each body, transferring the raw, stolen life force into them. The rogue gasps back to life, coughing blood, his wounds knitting together painfully. The bard's fingers twitch as breath returns to her lungs, her eyes fluttering open with a groan. The cleric sits upright, gasping, clutching her holy symbol as light floods her vision. The wizard convulses, then breathes again, shivering uncontrollably. The dwarf grunts, eyes snapping open as he realizes his own death was undone. The party members look around, bewildered and disoriented. and then noticed Stone standing at the center of the blackened, corrupted clearing, his shoulders tense, his aura radiating power and darkness. The rogue pulls himself upright, staring at him in shock. You saved us. Stone doesn't look back. You died because you were not strong enough. I brought you back because your story is not finished. That does not mean I will do it again. The cleric looks around, horrified by the state of the glade. What did you do to this place? Stone glances at her, his voice devoid of remorse. To give life to those who squandered it. I took it from those who would never know its worth. The bard looks at her hands, trembling. The forest, it's gone. Dead. Stone's eyes narrow. A fair trade. 100 lives for 5 who will remember their own deaths and fear it less next time. You are strong now, stronger than you were. Do not waste this second life. The wizard struggles to his feet, feeling the raw power still coursing through his veins. You gave us something. It feels different. Stone looks at him briefly. The life you were given carries with it the memory of death. Use it wisely. Without another word, Stone moves to the edge of the ruined glade, sitting on a fallen, rotting tree. He takes a swig from his flask, his face still and contemplative. The party members slowly gather themselves, some kneeling, others shaking with the residual fear of what they experienced. The rogue steps forward, voice low and hesitant. Why? Why did you do it? Stone's gaze remains on the darkened horizon. Because death is the ultimate weakness, and you are not ready to succumb to it. They stare at him, unsure whether to feel grateful or terrified. As they gather their scattered gear and begin to move on, they can't help but notice how the air is colder now, how even the wind seems to whisper curses through the dead trees. Master Stone sits alone in the blackened swamp. His presence is unmoving as a monument, allowing the darkness to consume what was once a sanctuary. The party moves in an uneasy silence, the shadow of death clinging to them like a shroud. The forest around them remains lifeless and corrupted from the sacrifice Master Stone made to restore them. The rogue glances back frequently, half expecting to see Stone vanish again, but he remains at the rear, his steps soundless and his gaze ever watchful. They press on until night falls, making camp in a rocky alcove surrounded by thick brambles. The bard lights a small fire, and the wizard uses his magic to form a barrier against the bitter wind. The dwarf sets his axe down and stares into the flames, lost in thought, while the cleric murmurs soft prayers to ease her spirit. The rogue sits apart from the others, sharpening his dagger obsessively, as if trying to drown out the memory of dying. The others feel it too, an intangible heaviness that they can't shake. It's as if a piece of their souls was left behind in that glade. After a long silence, Master Stone steps forward, his voice low and grim. You died because it was necessary. The bard looks up, startled. Necessary? We weren't strong enough, Stone interrupts, his tone sharp. You weren't strong enough because you didn't understand the price of power. To face the Black Host, you needed to experience death. Only those who have died once can wield the power required to destroy them. The rogue narrows his eyes. You planned this. You knew we would die. Stone's expression remains impassive. You were too soft, too afraid to truly embrace what you needed. Your weakness made you hesitate, and hesitation is death. I made it so you would understand the cost of survival. The cleric's hands shake as she clutches her holy symbol. You let us die so we could gain power? Stone nods. You are not the same as before. Death has marked you. It festers within you, feeding your strength. But without guidance, you will never control it. The wizard, still pale from the memory of his own corpse, whispers, What did you put inside us? Stone doesn't respond immediately. Instead, he reaches into his cloak and draws out a wicked-looking staff, dark and twisted, pulsing with veins of crimson energy. The firelight dances along its length, casting eerie shadows on the ground. The party stiffens instinctively, feeling the oppressive force radiating from the weapon. Stone slams the staff into the ground. The earth and the darkness pours from it, like a living entity, engulfing the campsite. The fire snuffs out instantly, and the world shifts, morphing into a twisted void where shadows writhe and whisper. The party finds themselves standing on a cracked, blackened platform, floating in a sea of void energy. Master Stone stands at the center, the staff glowing like a dying star. One by one, they are drawn forward, and Stone's voice booms through the abyss. Your deaths were not an ending, but a transformation. Now, I will unlock the power festering within you. Only by facing your shadow will you claim it. The shadows around them ripple, and each member suddenly find themselves alone in the void, face to face with a dark, distorted version of themselves, eyes glowing with a malevolent, crimson light. The rogue's confrontation. His shadow self grins wickedly, twirling twin daggers stained with dark ichor. You think you're clever, playing hero, leading the charge, but you know you're nothing without cunning. You survive because you used others as bait, just like you wanted to use Stone. The rogue grits his teeth. That's not true, I didn't. The shadow lunges, slashing at his throat. The rogue barely parries, feeling the raw speed and viciousness of his counterpart. As they clash, his shadow whispers in his ear, Admit it. You'd let them all die if it meant surviving. You're just afraid to embrace it. The rogue growls, finally realizing the truth. I don't need to deny my instincts. I just need to control them. With that acceptance, his shadow dissolves into wisps of dark energy, which sink into his chest. A dark aura pulses around him, enhancing his speed and reflexes. The dwarf's confrontation. His shadow is massive, hulking and brutal, wielding a bloodied axe far larger than his own. You're just a thug, swinging your axe without thinking. You don't protect them. You just like breaking bones. The dwarf roars, charging his shadow, but every swing is parried with terrifying strength. The shadow laughs, forcing him back. You fear being useless, dying like a dog. You fight because it's all you know. Admit it, you crave the violence. The dwarf finally lowers his weapon, breathing heavily. Aye, I love it. I fight because it's in my blood. But that doesn't mean I'm a monster. The shadow howls before merging with him, and a crimson glow surrounds the dwarf, his strength doubled. The cleric's confrontation. Her shadow is drenched in blood, holding a broken holy symbol. You can't save everyone. You never could. Your faith is just a way to escape guilt. The cleric trembles, falling to her knees. No, I have to save them. Her shadow kneels beside her, whispering, It's okay to hate them for being weak. You blame yourself for every death, but you know you're just afraid of being powerless. She steadies herself, meeting her shadow's eyes. I'll wield both mercy and wrath. Faith doesn't mean denying my pain. The shadow merges with her, and holy light pulses through with a dark edge, her power now fierce and unyielding. The wizard's confrontation. His shadow cackles madly, magic crackling around it. You're a coward. Too afraid to push the limits. You'll die weak because you're scared of losing control. The wizard clenches his staff. I just wanted to protect them without becoming a monster. The shadow surges forward, forcing him to the ground. Strength is never safe. You'll burn out and be forgotten. With a fierce glare, the wizard grips his staff tighter. Then I'll wield fire without fear. The shadow merges with him, and his magic surges, raw and potent. The bard's confrontation. Her shadow sings a mournful, discordant tune, eyes hollow and pitiful. You're just a pretty distraction, nothing more. They'll leave you behind because you're weak. The bard falters, hand shaking. I just want to give them hope. The shadow sneers. False hope. You know they'll die. You'll watch them fail and sing their elegies. She straightens, a fierce resolve igniting in her. I won't just be a pretty face. I'll make them stronger through my song. The shadow dissolves, and her music becomes sharper and more commanding. When they emerge from the shadow realm, their powers are transformed, dark, potent, and fierce. Stone stands at the center, the staff glow fading. He looks at them with an almost approving glance. You now possess Death Chi, the energy of survival at any cost. Use it to become more than heroes. Become legends. The rogue sheathes his blade with a smirk, the others feeling their new power coursing through them. They glance at one another. No longer the same fragile souls who had set out at first on this quest. And as Stone fades back into the shadows to watch them from afar, they know one truth above all. Their path to defeating the Black Host is now possible. Part 5. The morning sun breaks over the horizon, casting long shadows through the skeletal trees of the dead wood's edge. The party stirs, still feeling the residual power of the death chi coursing through their veins. Their dreams have been filled with visions of shadow and flame, of monstrous versions of themselves and the resolve it took to conquer them. The rogue is the first to notice the distant rumble, the sound of many horses, the clink of armor, and the steady beat of drums. He scrambles to his feet, blades at the ready, and the others quickly follow suit, their instincts still raw from their recent death and rebirth. From the dark edge of the forest, banners rise, black and crimson, emblazoned with the sigil of the citadel. A caravan emerges, riding in perfect formation. At the front, a dozen war horses bear warriors clad in obsidian armor chased with gold, their helms gleaming with intricate patterns. Behind them march battle mages draped in violet and silver, flames licking around their hands without burning them. The air shudders with the sheer presence of power and authority. The caravan itself is a spectacle, a colossal war wagon pulled by dire beasts, adorned with gemstones and covered in heavy iron plating, surrounded by foot soldiers in flawless formation. As they draw closer, the rogue's jaw drops and the bard gasps. Leading the procession are a trio of stunning figures, 2 women and 1 man, all impossibly beautiful, with eyes like molten gold and movements like flowing water. One woman is a towering half-giantess, draped in golden silk, her greatsword taller than most men. The other is a dark elf with an elaborate staff etched with glowing runes, her gaze piercing like obsidian shards. The man is a towering dragonborn, draped in silver scales and emerald jewels, a massive glaive strapped to his back. Behind them follow more, clearly stone sons, daughters, and wives, all equally magnificent and terrifying in presence. They are of all races, orc, elf, human, tiefling, and more, each adorned in the most exquisite battle gear imaginable, glittering with enchantments and power. The caravan halts in unison, and Master Stone steps forward, his presence still and commanding. His children and wives immediately kneel, hands over their hearts in reverence, their eyes lowered in respect. The Dragonborn speaks first, his voice like grinding stone. Father, we have brought what you requested, the finest arms and armor from the Citadel's vaults. As always, we stand ready to serve. The dark elf wife steps forward, her staff blazing briefly as she dips her head. We heard you have taken in pupils, my lord. It pleases me to see them alive. Stone raises a hand, and his followers rise. He gestures to the caravan, and several chests are brought forward by servants, each one carved with ancient runes and sealed with arcane locks. The caravan guards unfasten them, revealing the contents, armaments of terrifying power, each one crafted with brutal precision and elegance. Stone turns to the party, his gaze unwavering. You have gained power, but you remain unworthy of the full extent of your potential. To face the Black Host, you must wield not just skill and spirit, but arms forged by the utmost ruthless hands. He beckons the rogue forward first. Stone gestures to a pair of daggers, midnight black with crimson veins running through the blades. These are the Whispering Blades. They drink the soul of anyone they kill, growing stronger with each life taken. They will never dull, never bend, and will always find the heart of their target. The rogue reaches out, feeling a pull from the weapons, but hesitates. Stone's gaze hardens. These weapons demand more than mere wielding. They require loyalty and resolve. Before you touch them, you must make a choice. He turns to the whole party. When, if you defeat the Black Host, you will be survivors, heroes, and I will not allow power to walk free without purpose. Whoever survives the final battle will owe a life debt to the Citadel. You will serve under my banner until the end of your days, soldiers of the Citadel, bearing the mark of victory and death. This is the price of being given power fit for legends. The air grows cold as his words settle. The rogue's hands clench. The bard bites her lip, eyes flicking to the beautiful warriors and deadly weapons. The cleric swallows hard, trying to reconcile the cost. The wizard looks down, considering the implications, while the dwarf just grunts, scratching his beard. Stone's voice softens, though it remains unyielding. It is your choice. Accept the gear and the life debt, or walk away as you are, weak, unfit for the path ahead. Decide now. The rogue steps forward, eyes fierce. If I survive, I'll serve. I'd rather be strong and bound than free and powerless. He takes the blades, feeling a surge of death energy resonate through his soul. The dwarf grins, stepping forward. If I make it through, I'll owe you my life anyway. Might as well swear it proper. He takes the massive war axe, its head glowing with runes of destruction. The wizard hesitates, but then looks up with determination. If it means mastering my magic and surviving the Black Host, I will serve. He takes a staff that hums with arcane storms, lightning flickering between the engraved sigils. The cleric steps forward, her resolve firm. To save the world, I will give my life, and if I live, I will give it to the Citadel. She takes the blessed maul, its head glowing with holy fire. Finally, the bard, heart pounding, steps forward. I'll do it. My songs will become legends, and I'll serve until my voice gives out. She takes the silvered lute, its strings vibrating with power. Stone nods once, satisfied. You have chosen strength over weakness. From this moment on, your fate is intertwined with mine. Serve well, or your power will consume you. His children and wives observe with approving glances, satisfied that their master has chosen warriors worthy of his legacy. Stone's dragonborn son steps forward and bows. Shall we ride into battle with you, father? Stone shakes his head. No, you will continue securing the territories. His followers nod, accepting his decree without question. As the caravan prepares to move on, Stone steps away from the group, letting his family take their leave. The party remains behind, awed and unsettled by the sheer force of loyalty and reverence the citadel inspires. Once the caravan vanishes into the horizon, Stone turns back to them. The Black Host will not wait for you to adjust to your new power. Harden yourselves or die again. Your choice. He walks ahead, leading them towards the final confrontation without another word, knowing that now they are truly armed for war and forever bound to his cause. The journey takes several days, but the party feels an undeniable surge of power coursing through their veins. The new weapons and armor resonate with their souls, amplifying their abilities and sharpening their instincts. As they march forward, they sense Stone's unwavering presence behind them, as silent and unyielding as a mountain shadow. The rogue tests his new blades, finding them lighter than air, but devastating when striking practice targets. The dwarf hefts his massive rune-etched axe, feeling the energy surge with every swing. The wizard's staff crackles with arcane power, and he has to focus hard not to let the lightning arc off it uncontrollably. The cleric's maul hums with divine wrath, a beacon against the encroaching darkness. The bard plucks her enchanted lute, feeling the resonance amplify her voice and empower her melodies. They move with purpose, knowing that the final confrontation draws closer with every step. Eventually, they reach a high ridge overlooking a wide valley, a strategic vantage point. The rogue motions for everyone to stay low and scouts ahead, crawling through the dense foliage. What he sees makes his stomach tighten. He returns to the group, his face grim. They're here. The Black Host has made camp in the valley. Must be at least 1,000 strong, maybe more. And they've got things with them. The wizard narrows his eyes. What kind of things? War beasts, massive, covered in spiked armor, and something else, some kind of shadow wraiths drifting around the camp perimeter. Never seen anything like them. The dwarf snorts. Figures. Can't just be a straight fight, can it? The cleric shivers, gripping her maul. Those wraiths, they're not natural. Some foul magic is binding them. The bard glances at Stone, who remains silent and watchful, eyes fixed on the horizon. Should we wait for them to move? Maybe hit them while they're vulnerable? Stone shakes his head. The Black Host does not falter. They will not leave that valley until they are ready to march again. By then, they will be twice as strong. If we are to break them, it must be now. The rogue paces, chewing his lip. If we hit them head on, we're dead. Even with our new power, that many will overwhelm us. The wizard crosses his arms, thinking. We need to break their leadership. Without a commander, they'll fracture. But if I didn't see any obvious leaders from the ridge. Stone nods, his voice calm and analytical. The host general will not remain in the open. He will be entrenched, protected by his strongest guards in those wraiths. You must disrupt their formation and draw the general out, strike terror into them, and break their resolve. The dwarf grins. Terror, eh? That's something I can manage. The bard plucks a defiant chord. If we strike hard and fast enough, they'll think we're a larger force. Confuse them. Make them fight each other. The cleric looks thoughtful. If I can get close enough, I can consecrate the ground and banish some of those wraiths. Their presence weakens our resolve. They're drawing fear from the soldiers and amplifying it. The wizard nods in agreement. If we disrupt the wraiths, their formation will become chaotic. That's when we hit hard. Stone steps closer, his presence demanding their attention. You will not survive by fighting like heroes. Strike with purpose. Kill without hesitation. Focus on disrupting their morale. Fear is your greatest weapon. Shatter their minds, and their strength will crumble. The rogue glances at the others, then at Stone. And you? Will you be in the thick of it? Stone doesn't respond immediately. Instead, he draws his wicked staff and plants it firmly into the ground. Shadows ripple outward, and the staff's tip glows with a deep, hellish crimson. I will show them the face of death itself, he says quietly, his tone like granite grinding against steel. You will move as I create the opening. When they see their strongest fall, their will to fight will shatter. The party exchanges glances, each one feeling the weight of their mission. The bard hesitates, then steps forward. We're going to have to split up, aren't we? Stone nods. 4 points of attack, one at each corner of their encampment. Set their supply wagons ablaze, sabotage their siege engines, and slaughter any guards who investigate. Once the panic sets in, converge on the center. That is when I will strike. The rogue sketches a quick map in the dirt. Dwarf and I will take the northeast. Cleric, you and the bard take the southwest. Wizard, your power will do the most damage at the southeast. I'll meet you at the center once it's chaos. The dwarf nods, his eyes blazing with excitement. Smash 'em good, and they'll never see what's hit 'em. The cleric takes a deep breath. We'll protect the bard and keep them disoriented. Consecration first, wraith second. The wizard nods, fingers crackling with raw energy. I'll draw as much attention as I can. Make 'em think the whole battalion's assaulting their flank. The bard adjusts her lute, her face set with determination. If they start to regroup, I'll make them lose heart. A song of despair to break their spirits. Stone watches them, his gaze unwavering. If you fall, I will not resurrect you again. This is your war. Fight to live, or die with purpose. The rogue gives a sharp nod. Understood. As they make final preparation, Stone steps back, watching his chosen warriors steel themselves. They are not the same fragile souls who first sought his guidance. They are honed now, shaped by death and rebirth, tempered by loss and sacrifice. He knows they will either become legends this night or be consumed by the darkness. Before they break formation, the rogue looks at Stone one last time. If we make it out alive, we're yours. You know that, right? Stone gives a barely perceptible nod. You have proven worthy to serve under my banner. Do not disappoint me. The rogue smirks. Wouldn't dream of it. The plan is set, and as night falls, they melt into the darkness, moving like phantoms towards the encampment. Stone watches them go, knowing that their choices will determine not only their fate, but the fate of countless lives in the path of the Black Host. When the chaos erupts, the shadows will dance, and death will claim its due. The night falls heavy over the valley, thick with the scent of smoldering campfires and the dull murmur of the Black Host. Thousands of soldiers, undead beastmen, corrupted men-at-arms, and wraith-bound lieutenants camp in tight formations, their armor gleaming with dark ruins. Siege engines loom like skeletal giants against the backdrop of the night sky. The rogue and dwarf move like shadows through the northeast flank, eyes sharp and senses heightened. The rogue counts guards, slipping past tents and crates. The dwarf grips his new war axe, barely suppressing his excitement. They reach the first supply cart, a massive, overloaded wagon filled with barrels of pitch and rations. The rogue slips a flask of oil into the wagon and ignites it with a quick spark, leaping back as the flames roar upward. The dwarf lets out a savage war cry and hews down the first few guards who rush in, his axe cleaving through armor and bone. The Black Host soldiers surge forward, but the dwarf holds them back with brute force, while the rogue darts among them, cutting tendons and slicing throats. On the opposite side, the southwest edge, the cleric and the bard creep through the shadows, spotting a cluster of siege engines. Wraiths patrol in slow, drifting patterns, exuding an aura of despair. The cleric glances at the bard and nods, stepping forward and slamming her consecrated maul into the ground. "By the light I claim this ground," she bellows, and the holy fire bursts outward, burning the creeping darkness and forcing the wraiths back. The ground pulses with divine energy, and the corrupted earth turns pure for a brief moment. The wraiths scream, their essence unraveling. The bard seizes the moment, strumming her lute and singing a fierce, rousing battle song that cuts through the night air. Her voice shatters the air like glass, invigorating the cleric and demoralizing the nearest soldiers. The song pulses through the ranks, breaking their concentration and making them falter. At the southeast flank, the wizard sets up his position on the low ridge, his staff crackling with barely contained power. He mutters a long, complex incantation, and the sky above darkens as he draws in energy from the ley lines below. With a roar, he slams his staff into the ground, unleashing a wave of electrical devastation that arcs from one soldier to the next, reducing them to ash. The air reeks of ozone and scorched flesh as enemy ranks break into panic. The host surges forward to investigate each disturbance, the lines thinning and war drums beating in confusion. Some commanders bark orders to reform, but the chaos only spreads. From the shadows, Stone watches the fear begin to take hold, his gaze piercing the confusion. It's time. He strides forward into the heart of the camp, his staff of shadow writhing like a serpent in his hand. With a wave, tendrils of darkness rise from the ground, coiling around Black Host soldiers and crushing them like paper dolls. A nearby lieutenant, a hulking brute of bone and metal, charges at him, but Stone doesn't even move. Shadows coil around the monster's throat and snap it clean off. The rogue and dwarf break through the northeast flank, having shattered their lines with precision and brutality. They regroup with the others near the center, seeing the bulk of the host reforming into a defensive circle around a massive obsidian tent. The cleric wipes blood from her mouth and glances at the bard. "Now's the time. They're rallying. We need to break their command." The wizard nods, charges up another smell. "If we don't crush them now, they'll recover and surround us." Stone glances at them, his voice like a blade. "Draw out the general. If he remains sheltered, their unity will not break." The rogue looks up at the towering black tent. "He's in there. We can't just walk up." Stone steps forward, slamming his staff into the ground. The shadows burst outward, and he summons a wraith made entirely of his own chi, its form sleek and lethal. It streaks out towards the tent, smashing down guards before they can even react. The monstrous general emerges, a towering figure of metal and shadow, his eyes burning with malice and his arms forged into massive cleaver blades. The general points his blade at Stone, his voice a guttural snarl. "Wretch, you think your shadows scare me? I command death itself." Stone remains impassive, his eyes unblinking. "Then prove it." The general roars, charging forward. Stone does not move, but the rogue slips behind the brute, cutting tendons at its knees. The general stumbles, and the dwarf slams his axe into the monster's shoulder, nearly severing the limb. The cleric channels holy fire searing through the general's exposed chest. The wizard summons a storm and lightning crashes down on the general's head, but the monstrous leader shakes it off, spewing corrupted energy into the air. The bard sings a song of despair, weaving her voice through his soul, and the general falters, as if his will itself is unraveling. With a single motion, Stone raises his staff, pulling the general's own shadow beneath him. It solidifies into a wicked spear, stabbing upward through his chest and out his own throat. The general gurgles, eyes bulging, as his own darkness destroys him from within. Stone flicks his wrist, and the spear bursts into black mist. The remaining host soldiers, seeing their leader fall, break into a panicked rout. Stone's children and followers, now charging from the east, cut down the fleeing remnants without mercy. War drums fall silent. The valley becomes a killing ground. When the battle ends, the party gathers near Stone, breathing hard but victorious. The rogue wipes his blades and gives a sly grin. Well, that was easier than I thought. The dwarf snorts. Easier? Felt like getting torn apart. The cleric kneels, catching her breath. We did it. It's over. The wizard glances at Stone, still unnerved by his implacable presence. Did you know it would always end this way? Stone does not respond. Instead, he looks over the valley, littered with corpses and broken armor. His gaze is cold, calculating. After a moment, he finally speaks. You broke them because you stopped fearing death. When you shed weakness, you become capable of wielding true power. Remember that. The bard lowers her lute, looking at the others like a wary smile. We really made it. Stone turns to them, his voice resolute. Your fate is sealed. You live. You have earned your strength and your servitude. When we return to the Citadel, your lives belong to me. The rogue gives a weak chuckle, wiping blood from his brow. We'll follow you. No one else has ever made us this strong. Stone gives a single nod and turns away, leading them back through the battlefield, where the final crows have already begun to feast. The valley becomes a tomb, a monument to their conquest and the price of power. The party follows behind him, alive, stronger, and forever bound to the shadow of the Citadel. Years have passed since the Black Host fell, and the Citadel has flourished, its influence spreading far beyond the dark mountains. The great stone walls now house new generations, children of warriors, mages, and bards who train and grow under the watchful eye of their legendary parents and grandparents. The rogue, now a master of shadows and deception, has trained an entire guild within the Citadel, teaching the art of subterfuge and assassination. He married one of Stone's elven daughters, a nimble archer who shares his taste for danger. Their children, quick, agile, fiercely independent, run through the Citadel like ghostly shadows, always watching and listening. One evening, as the sun casts long shadows over the garden, the rogue slips through, moving like a breath of wind. He pauses, seeing Master Stone kneeling among the obsidian orchids, hands gently tending the dark petals. You always were the quiet one, Stone remarks without looking up. The rogue chuckles, leaning against a gnarled tree. Still can't sneak up on you. Guess I'm not as good as I thought. Stone glances at him, his expression unreadable. You are better than you know. You learned to be patient, something few assassins master. The rogue sighs, his gaze wandering to the flowers. You were right back then, about fear. I used to think being clever was enough. Turns out, it wasn't about being smarter. It was about embracing what I couldn't control. Stone gives a single nod. You have built something worth fearing. Your guild serves the Citadel well. The rogue looks down at his calloused hands. And my children, are they worthy?
They are yours. That is enough.
Stone's words are absolute, and the rogue feels a weight lift from his shoulders. With a respectful nod, he vanishes back into the shadows, leaving Stone alone once more. The dwarf is next, his laugh echoing through the courtyard as he barrels through the gate, his great axe resting on his shoulder. His wife, one of Stone's half-orc daughters, follows behind him, shaking her head in exasperation. Their brood of hardy children trails behind, sparring and laughing like a pack of wolves. Spotting Stone, the dwarf grins and stomps into the garden, scattering dirt with every step. Oi, Stone! You still playing with your flowers while the world moved on? Stone doesn't look up, plucking a weed from the base of a twisted vine.
You are loud, as always.
The dwarf drops to a squat beside him, eyeing the flowers skeptically. I never saw the point in flowers. Can't drink 'em, can't smash 'em. But they're yours, so I reckon they're worth something. Stone finally glances at him.
You still crave the thrill of battle, even with your own clan to lead?
The dwarf grunts, scratching his beard. Aye, never thought I'd be chief. You made me think about being more than swinging an axe. Gotta admit, it's been good. Stone resumes his work, voice low.
A king is only as strong as those who follow him. You learned that lesson well.
The dwarf's grin softens, his tone almost thoughtful. Aye, took a lifetime, but I did, and it's thanks to you. He stands, ruffling his son's hair as he passes. Reckon I'll leave you to your flowers. Got a feast to plan. The cleric approaches at dusk, her radiant glow softened with age but still vibrant. She has become a leader in the Citadel's spiritual order, guiding the faithful and providing counsel. Her husband, a stoic human knight from Stone's ranks, follows behind with a solemn nod. She kneels beside Stone, folding her hands in prayer before speaking. They still call you the Shadow Warden. Stories spread far beyond the mountains. Stone doesn't respond, simply adjusting a flower's stem. She takes a breath, studying his worn hands. I feared losing myself to the darkness back then. You taught me to embrace it, not to be consumed by it. He finally looks at her, his eyes piercing. You made the choice to wield both light and shadow. Few have the will to do so. She hesitates before asking, do you regret it? Bringing us back from death? Stone's gaze shifts to the horizon, his voice distant.
You needed to break, to be strong. I do not regret forging you into weapons.
She nods, accepting the harsh truth. Thank you for not giving up on us when we gave up on ourselves. She rises and walks away, her presence leaving a warmth that lingers. The wizard arrives after nightfall, wrapped in his arcane robes. His wife, one of Stone's warlocks, accompanies him, their children trailing behind, each carrying a tome or a staff. The wizard looks older, his power immense and carefully controlled. He approaches Stone cautiously, kneeling in respect.
Master.
Stone glances at him briefly.
You learned to master the storm.
The wizard swallows his pride, nodding. Because you forced me to face myself. You never let me hide behind caution. Stone doesn't respond. The wizard hesitates. Sometimes I wonder what would have been if you hadn't pushed us. If we just lived and died as nobodies. Stone's hand pauses for a moment, but he says nothing. The wizard takes it as an answer in itself and bows his head. Thank you for not letting us remain weak. The bard arrives last, just before midnight, her ethereal music heralding her approach. She has become a legend in her own right, leading festivals, inspiring troops, and lifting morale with her songs. Her husband, a wandering minstrel from the citadel, plays alongside her, their children singing harmonies. She kneels beside Stone, her song fading. Still tending the garden, even after all these years? Stone looks at her with the faintest hint of a smirk. You bring life to this place with your voice. It balances the shadows. The bard chuckles softly. Sometimes I wonder if you knew all along what we would become. You always seemed so certain. Stone doesn't answer directly. The world needed strength. You rose to meet it. That is all. She bows her head. I'll keep singing for as long as I can. Keep telling stories of those who overcame their own shadows. Stone nods, his hand steady and sure as he plants another dark blossom. Do not forget where your power came from. It is born from pain and rebirth. Do not let comfort dull your edge. She places a hand on his shoulder before leaving. I'll never forget, and neither will the world. As dawn breaks over the citadel, Master Stone remains kneeling in his garden, his children and grandchildren occasionally passing by with respectful bows and soft words. The legends he forged continue to shape the world, their power born from the darkest trials and fiercest battles. And as he works the soil, tending the obsidian flowers, he knows that no matter how great the citadel becomes, it will never soften, for within every warrior and every legend there still burns the unyielding fire of survival, the iron that will overcome death itself. And that fire will keep the citadel strong long after Stone's final breath. The end.